Hey everyone, welcome to an episode of the Diamond Diaries, a podcast about women in baseball, hosted by a woman in baseball, yours truly, Chelsea Raymer. Thank you so much for coming on. And Suzie, welcome to the Diamond Diaries. I'm so excited to have you here. I kind of wanted to start, I know you mentioned you're from Pittsburgh, but I kind of wanted to start by asking like a little bit about where you're from in Pittsburgh and kind of how sports were a part of your life growing up before working in them full time.
Okay, so I'm from a little bit outside of Pittsburgh by the Pittsburgh airport, like literally a mile or two away. An airplane could fly right over my house and I wouldn't hear it because it's basically like I've lived like that my entire life. So little town called Clinton, Pennsylvania. But I always say I'm from Pittsburgh because especially over the last 12, 13 years now, I've spent so much time downtown working all my various jobs for all the sports teams here. Uh, with sports, I have two older brothers, which I feel like a lot of people don't know. A lot of people know a lot about work for me and like about Muffin, my cat, but they don't know as much of like the background of my family. I put it on social media, but not as much as the other stuff. But I have two older brothers, and they grew up playing baseball, and that was like their first love and their passion. It was not mine. I played t-ball, and I was the kid that literally was sitting in right field picking dandelions and doing cartwheels. And then when I turned 12 years old, I decided to take a stab at softball again. But then I also was doing like volleyball and track, and I was a competitive cheerleader. And I was so good at competitive cheerleading. I was super fast, so I was great at track. But for some reason, like when my parents made me choose one because they wanted me to have scholarship opportunities, they're like, you have to choose a sport to play in high school. So I said, okay, I'm going to pick softball. And my parents looked at me like I had three eyeballs. They were like, are you sure out of all things, like you're great at all these other things, you're gonna pick softball? Because I was terrible at it. And I was like, yeah. But I think that it set such a foundation for who I am now. And I think that this has just always been my personality. I think I loved the challenge of being bad at something and having to make myself good. And it sounds so backwards, but it gave me my work ethic and it taught me how to work hard. I saw that like I wasn't going to be a varsity starter when I was a freshman and a sophomore. So what did I do? I forced my dad to drive me to Ohio every single weekend and take me to a hitting coach. I forced my dad to go down on the ball field every single night and hit me fly balls until he told me he wanted to be done. I would take myself down to the ball field and just throw at a bucket. And I think that having that foundation has set me up for so much of the success that I've seen in my own career. But it's just so funny to look back and be like, I didn't even have this love originally, but I got this love because of all the hard work that it took to be good at the sport that I fell in love with. And now I get to do it for a living.
So, what position did you end up playing in softball?
So I was a middle infielder growing up, like when I was 12 and then middle school. And then whenever I got to high school, I'm not kidding you, I missed one ground ball while I was playing third base. They were trying me out at third base and they were like, go to the outfield. And I was like, man, like I want to be an infielder. Everybody wants to be the shortstop, right? And then all of a sudden I found this newfound love for being an outfielder and I could have played any outfield position, but I was I don't give myself a lot of credit. I was so dangerous in center field, like so dangerous. No, I would walk to up to a tournament and people would be like, "Oh no, Susie's there." Because it's like if it was on the right field line, I was getting it. If it was off the fence, I was gunning you out. It didn't matter. So I ended up playing center field and it was just like I feel like not a lot of people, you grew up playing softball, right?
A little bit. I was actually really competitive with volleyball. So like I played
Okay.
softball kind of for fun with my friends, but volleyball, that was the one where like I traveled all over the country, played every weekend, played year round. Um,
Okay.
so like I grew up playing sports a lot, but I was not very serious about softball at all.
Yeah. So I feel like growing up, at least, like everybody always focused, if you were on the infield, you focused on a specific position. But if you were and then outfield was like your secondary position. I was like a true outfielder, and I feel like that was so rare back in the days, but I took a lot of pride in it because I was like, no, if I'm going to do this, like I'm going to be the best. And like that's what I made it. So, yes, that's eventually what I went on to play.
No, I love that. I mean, I played softball when I was younger with my friends and I was a pitcher. And I
Okay.
think that's just because like I was always like the biggest girl on my team, so I could at least get the ball like across the plate. But like I think outfielder, that's kind of how it was too when I was growing up, was like they were like if you're not pitching, I guess you could play outfield. So I love that
Yeah.
you're like a true outfielder because I don't think outfielders get enough credit, you
Nope.
know?
They really don't. It's like, oh, well, we want you to be a utility guy. Like, we don't need a second baseman now. So like we'll just throw you in right field. And it's
Mhm.
like it's not as easy as people think.
Yeah.
Like, and especially people think if you just play outfield, like you can play any of the three positions. Like the spin on the ball is different from each position.
Hmm.
And like pitches come off the bat different from each position. Like it's different. Like if there's a lot of lefties in the lineup and you're a right fielder, there is going to be more pull on the ball, whereas you're probably used to a lot of righties being in a lineup and there's more of like our eyes on the ball. Like it's just crazy that people don't. Now they understand it, I think, but like when I was growing up, they didn't. They were just like, go to the outfield and like figure it out. And I'm like, no. So I just like I took a lot of pride in it.
Well, I did see you did play softball in college and were part of the softball program. How did you kind of decide on St. Vincent's and what was that process like of going to play in college?
So I wanted to go, like everybody, I wanted to go D1 so bad, and some things just didn't pan out. I definitely was a late bloomer, like I said, like my junior year, senior year is when I really hit my stride, and I feel like even with college now, they're going even younger to when they're starting to recruit kids. I couldn't even imagine what it would be like to be going through that now, and I'm glad that I don't have to be a part of it. With just the transfer portal and the NIL deals and all that. But my mom actually worked at a local college around here at the time that I was looking for colleges, and so she kind of had like a tuition exchange program that I was a part of, and St. Vincent just so happened to be a part of that program. And I was full like on just going to go to the same school that my brothers had went to. But then my dad's like, why don't we visit some other schools? And I ended up visiting St. Vincent. And honestly, just the campus made me fall in love with it. And then I was like, you know what, small D3 school, like I can make this happen. And I will say, as bad as I wanted to go D1, I will never regret the decision to go D3 because I got to play at the collegiate level. And maybe it wasn't at the D1 level, but I got to play every single game of my college career. Like, not a lot of people can say that, and I played every single year, almost every single game. And I don't think that that would have been something that I would have been able to do if I went to a higher level.
Yeah, how did you decide on what you wanted to study?
Well, so I always knew that I wanted to be on camera or be on the radio whenever I was little. And so whenever you go to school, you're like, okay, like Syracuse is the broadcasting school or this or this or this. St. Vincent didn't really have that type of program. So I was like, okay, what's the closest thing to it? And they were like, okay, communication with a PR and advertising focus. So I did that and I got a minor in graphic design. Literally, I had one news class, like one news writing class. And then I actually got my master's at Point Park University, which is a highly touted broadcasting school here in Pittsburgh. But again, even though I got my media communicate master's in media communication with a focus in journalism, I still didn't take many broadcasting classes. And I say this, like I will say this till I'm blue in the face. I love St. Vincent and I love Point Park, and I thank them for everything that they gave me because they definitely gave me a foundation for education. I feel with what I do, we could almost do like a trade school for it because you don't learn, especially like with my main job now being the Penguins and Arena host, like you don't learn how to talk in front of 30,000 people like in a classroom. It's an impossible feat to do. So until you do those things, like you don't really know how to do your job. It's even talking to people on TV, unless you go to Syracuse and you have that kind of I guess on hands-on experience like on campus, but a lot of small schools don't. So that's kind of how I came across it. But then like really my internships and my job that I landed with the Pirates being a Pirates ball girl is what propelled me to everything that I have here today.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I kind of wanted to get into you being a ball girl for your hometown team. I think that's so awesome. So, how did that opportunity come about?
There were just applications and I applied. The applications were actually for the Bucker Brigade, which is like the promo team there. The t-shirt tossers, they toss the hot dogs, all that stuff, all part of all the promotional games. So I actually tried out for that too. There were no tryouts to be a ball girl, but I tried out for the Bucker Brigade and I danced to Eye of the Tiger while slingshotting mini hot dogs and Reese's Pieces into the crowd. And my first boss that I had there at the time, he's like, okay, like you're pretty funny, but I think you'd be better as a ball girl. And I was like, thank baby Jesus above because I also think I would be better as a ball girl. So that's kind of how I came across it. But that was I it's so funny because my boss now at the Penguins, I just told him this a few weeks ago. I was like, this is like what I always dreamed of doing. I was like, but being a ball girl, I just don't know if anything tops just like getting paid to shag ground balls. Like I truly don't like I get paid to talk now, but like to just field ground balls and be paid for it like on a Sunday afternoon, that's hard to beat.
And you got to dress up like in full uniform and everything, right?
Yeah, and now their uniforms are different now. We had like shorts and we would wear yoga pants, but we had little jerseys with our names on it and stuff. So it was a lot of fun. And we had helmets that we had to wear while we were out there. So it was super cute. Now they have like full on pants, jerseys, all that, which I honestly don't know if I would have liked that. Like I just mentioned a sunny Sunday afternoon. It was hot in shorts, so I can't even imagine having to wear like the full get up on a Sunday if it's like 96 degrees out there.
Yeah. So I saw you were also like kind of the co-host doing promotions and interacting with fans a little bit afterwards. How was that transitioning to doing that as well?
So that was an easy transition just because it's so crazy to think that being a ball girl, it's such a simple job and like you don't think that a lot of people are interacting with that person, but like I'll never forget my first day there. It was April 19th, 2014. I walked out on the warning track and I was like, okay, how do I make this my life? Like that was like my aha moment. Like I know what I want to do, but like I want to be a part of this, like in sports. And I just made it a point to like know everybody from Frank Coonley at the time, who was the president, to Clint Hurdle, who was the manager, to the janitors, to all the season ticket holders across the baselines. Like I knew everybody in that stinking ballpark. So whenever I was presented that opportunity, I was still in the midst of my ball girl career. I had just gotten a couple of my first on-camera opportunities, so I just was like, sure, let's do it. I went from like 5 or 6 thousand in Wheeling to now all of a sudden I'm doing, 28 or 38, whatever it is at PNC Park for pregame. But I'll be honest with you, like if that tape ever resurfaces, like it is awful. Like I don't even know how they let me do it at that level yet, which is insane. I wish I could go back now and shake that Susie and be like, you can loosen up a little bit. But yeah, it was a good transition, and I think a lot of people were excited about it just to see like the growth from being a ball girl to now, oh, she's now transitioning to what she actually wants to do.
So I read that while you were doing that, you were studying for your master's and juggling like four different jobs. Can you talk about that chaos and just how you balanced everything?
Yeah, so I was working 6 jobs and going to grad school. So 5 of my jobs were in the sports media industry, and then one of them was at a gym. So essentially, the gym job I would do in the morning. So I would wake up at like 4 in the morning, and I'd be at the gym by like 4:30 because the first class was starting at 5 o'clock, and I would put in my shift until like 10, 11 a.m. And then I would go and do all my other jobs. So sometimes I would have to go to the soccer field and cover the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. And then I'd have to go to PNC Park and help the TV station with some stuff. And then all of a sudden I'd have to put on my ball girl uniform and go out on the foul lines, or I'd take a dinner and do some homework. And then I'd go on the TV truck for the rest of the night. And it was just chaos. Every single day was different. I never knew what my schedule would allow for. But I will say this, like school took a back seat. And there was a point where they were like, you're not coming to class, like what's going on? And you know how it is with class, like you got to be there to get the grade. And I just kind of was very blunt with them and I was like, look, I am doing work that is making me learn more like on site than if I'm sitting in a research studies class.
Hmm.
Like I was like, it just doesn't add up. And because I had that honest conversation, they actually were like, okay, yeah, like keep going and doing your thing. And I actually was still in school. Nobody really knows this. Like I graduated while I was in Salem.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like I didn't finish school until I was in Salem. I didn't go to my graduation, honestly, but I got that opportunity to go to Salem through Point Park University. So they were all for like me taking advantage of every opportunity. But like I still had to take the test. I still had to do all the projects. It's just class was a little lenient because of how much other stuff I had going on.
Okay, so then you make your way to Salem and you're doing like, the marketing, promotions, and on-field hosting, just to name things. What was that transition like going from all the chaos of doing that to then going to that little corner of Southwest Virginia to work in minor league baseball?
It was a culture shock at first. Yeah, just because it was very hard for me to leave
Mhm.
Pittsburgh, just with everything I had going on. And I mean, you can ask Alan Lawrence, who is still the general manager down there, my former boss. I mean, it took me weeks to give him an answer. And I remember sitting with some of my mentors that I had before I left, and I was like, should I do this? And they said, Susie, it's like the best analogy. They were like, it's like you're on a treadmill. You're doing great things, but you're not getting anywhere. And they were like, go make a name for yourself. And so I was like, okay, like we're going to do this. We're going to go to Salem. It's only 9 months and then I can come back home, or so I thought. But I remember being like 4 months into it and April hit that first season. And I was like, what am I doing here? Like, I just gave up everything I had in Pittsburgh, and I'm in this little town where I don't know anybody. I'm making $500 a month. Like, I need to do something. Like, I need to make a name for myself, and I need to do it fast. And that same day, I was on Twitter, and Melanie Newman was making history, and Emma Tiedemann was making history. And I was just like, wait a second, why can't I do this too? Like, I played ball. Like, I know ball. Like, I can call it. And so I went to my GM at the time, who was not Alan Lawrence. And I went to Alan and I went to my play-by-play broadcaster at the time and I said, I want to do this. How can we work this out? And they were like, okay, like, yeah, you can do it. But, and you know how it is as an intern there. It's like there's stipulations. Like you sign a contract at the beginning of the season. This is what you're going to be paid. I was paid $500 a month. They weren't going to pay for what I was doing on the road. So they weren't going to pay for my hotel. They weren't going to pay for my food. They weren't going to pay for, like, I wasn't allowed to ride the bus. Like, that wasn't a part of the initial deal. So if I wanted to do this, it was coming out of my own pocket. And so what a lot of people in the background don't realize is when I wasn't traveling with the team, I was going back to Pittsburgh and ball girling and working at the TV station and working at the radio station that I worked at to be able to have a roof over my head every time I went on the road. And I mean, it was pure chaos when I got there, but now looking back on it, like I wouldn't change that part of my story for the world just because of the memories that I have with the people on the road or like when I would come back here to Pittsburgh too.
Okay, that's so crazy to me, and I admire you so much for like paying your way, but that's something I wanted to ask you a lot about is like, what that experience was like having to drive yourself and be prepared and like pay for your own food. Like I think that's so crazy because I got the same amount of money when I was in Salem and I could not even imagine like if they didn't put me up in an apartment, I don't think I could have said yes to that experience and
Yeah.
opportunity. But what was it like, driving to all these different places and like just having to be prepared for, all of that on the road. And then, for everything you did in Pittsburgh, I had no idea. That's so crazy.
Yeah, no, it was a whirlwind. Like I said, it was a lot of fun. And there would be some times where like our video coach would ride with me because there wasn't room on the bus, or like one of the trainers would take like a shorter trip with me and whatever it was. But I mean, I knew what I was doing with the end goal that I had in mind, right? I was like, I know this isn't like the end all be all. And like
Mhm.
honestly, too, I think it was a good start for change because like immediately the next season, look at what happens with Melanie and I. It's like we can ride the bus. We have a stipend to buy food. We have a hotel room. Like it honestly changed the game. And like I'll never take, and again, I know that it all was because of the contract that I had in place at the beginning of the season, but I think it's just I think people now when you look at internships, they're like, oh, this was unpaid or this is this. And I'm like, do you, and I think that like everybody should be compensated, but there was one point where people weren't. And I was one of those people. And I was like, I'm gonna make this happen no matter what. And there was only one time, and it was the very last road trip I ever went on that season, where I went to swipe my card in Winston-Salem, and they were like, I'm sorry, honey, like your card. And I didn't even have a credit card. All I had was my debit card. Like I didn't have a credit card until like 3 years ago because I was so scared of credit cards. Um, But she swiped my debit card and she's like, I'm sorry, honey, like it's not going through. And I didn't have enough money to pay for a hotel. And I remember like I was 25 years old and I had to call my dad and I was like, hey, like, can you put $129 in my bank account? Like, I finally ran out of my funds. And he's like, yeah, like, and my parents are the best. They would do anything for me. But that was just like, I knew I was gonna run into it. And I'm glad it was the last road trip. But it's a crazy time to think back on now.
Well, so with that, opportunity you had with Melanie to make history and everything, so when did talks of that start happening? I know when you did it by yourself on the road, you had mentioned you had talked to all these people and made it happen. When did talks of doing that with Melanie start?
So our Salem and our play-by-play from my 2018 season, they parted ways in I think it was like October of 2018. And then of course once that job opens up, like so many people want to break into broadcasting, so like emails start flying, like you got to put up the job. There's hundreds of applicants. And I remember I was sitting at my desk then. And it was another one of those moments where I thought I was going to go home the month before and be home for forever. But here I'm back in Salem. Now I'm full time. I don't know when I'm returning to Pittsburgh. Like this has now become a where's the journey going? Like I thought I had a plan and it's all shuffling around. And I remember when that job opened up and people started applying, I got like one or two female applications and I was like, wow, there's never been an all-female broadcasting booth in professional baseball. Like that would be iconic. And so I went to Ryan Shelton, our GM at the time, and I went to Alan and I go, we should do this. And they were like, we should do this. It turns out the first set of applicants, the couple of females that applied just weren't they didn't have the experience that was needed. And I wasn't just going to throw somebody in the booth, just be like, oh, we did this, and it'd be like a token thing. That wasn't it. I wanted somebody who knew how to do the job. And so we ended up hiring Dom Catronio and his dad, former voice of the Oakland Athletics. Dom took it, and then all of a sudden, Dom's there for 2 weeks, and he gets a call up to Double A Corpus Christi. And he's like, Suzie, what do I do? And I'm like, you have to take the job, Dom. Like, you're getting your call up. Like, you got to go. So he leaves, but that leaves us with like a month and a half before the season. And now we're like in this search of a person again. And that day was crazy when everybody found out Dom was moving up. So many people started emailing me because they knew I was a part of the process. And I remember going to Alan's office that day. I had taken Muggsy out on a mascot visit. And I remember going to Alan's office that day and being like, am I in trouble? Like, what? Is there a rumor flying? Like, why am I getting all of these emails? And he's like, somehow it got leaked that like Dom is leaving. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is insane. Like, I got so many emails, my phone died on the way home from Liberty University. I am not kidding you. I was with my fellow Salem Red Socker, Bobby Howland, in the car. He can confirm this. And my phone freaking dies. And all of a sudden, I'm like, oh my God. So I start going through applicants again. I start going through the process again. And lo and behold, two females that had the experience applied for the job. Or I should say reached out about it because I think the one applied and then the other one reached out. And one of them just happened to be Melanie. And both of them were great applicants. We couldn't have went wrong with either. One of them, very, very well. So I think that we made a great choice though, and with both of them. But it was just cool because it was like we went from not having that option the first time around to the second option. We had two great options. And to be honest with you, Emma, you know her very well. She was with Lexington at the time and she didn't feel comfortable leaving Lexington that close to the season. And Melanie was right there. And you can't mess up a name like Melanie Newman. Look at what she's doing now, you know?
So when she does get to Salem and you guys are gearing up for your first broadcast, how did you feel like going into that? Do you remember that day when you were like, this is happening, we're doing this together for the first time? Like, what was running through your head?
I was so nervous because Melanie is like so polished and she had so much more experience than I did at that time. So I was just like, and it's not that Ben, my guy, the year before, he wasn't polished. It just was a different dynamic with both of us. Like he knew I was just getting my feet wet. So not only am I with Melanie, but I'm also on like this huge stage. I mean, like our face is plastered in the Boston Globe at the time. An MLB app alert goes out 20 minutes before the broadcast. Nesson's there taping a feature on us. Like it just was so chaotic. And I remember being like, oh my gosh, like this is real. Like we're doing something that nobody else has. And then I'm sitting there laughing like, I came up with this idea at my desk, like little me, just like, okay, let's do it. And it's all of a sudden, it's like on a news article in Korea. Like, that's insane to me. So I remember being like really nervous, but also just taking it all and like, wow, one idea changed, honestly, the game. Like, how many all-female broadcast teams have you seen now since that time? Like,
Mhm.
it's pretty insane. Like in every single sport. I'm not saying that that specific day changed everything, but I think it helped become a huge part of what we see now is becoming the norm.
I know you guys definitely got a lot of support for it, which I think is wonderful, but kind of going on the flip side, I'm sure, there's always people that are going to be hateful for absolutely no reason. There's internet trolls. Did you get a lot of hate, and then how did you kind of handle that?
I don't really think we did, honestly. Like maybe I was numb to it and I've went about my entire career like this. Like people are always gonna say negative things. Like you're not gonna make 100% of people happy. That's just how life is. Um, so I guess maybe I'm just kind of naive to like what people say because I think for every 50 great comments you get, there's probably the one or two negative. And it's like, why do I want to listen to those one or two negative people when there's like 50 that are like, you're awesome. Like you're doing something nobody's ever done before. You guys are great. So I don't really remember getting a lot of hate or a lot of backlash from anything. I think it was more positivity and more, it's shown a light on, or I guess put a light on, we need to be doing this more often than not. And here's two girls that are fully capable of being able to do it.
So I remember taking a picture in front of the Women in Sports wall at Fenway Park, and you and Melanie have a picture up there.
Yeah.
What does it feel like to know like you're up there at Fenway Park? That's so cool.
Yeah, that is pretty insane. I actually just said that to my boss last night. And he's like, "Wait, what? Your face is on the wall at Penway Park?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, I don't like." It's so crazy because the things that I've done, I don't even really talk about.
Mhm.
Like, and that I think is what a lot of my friends love about me is they're like, "Yeah, you would like never know that you did this or did this," and I'm just like, "Yeah," because it's just like life. It happens to everybody,
It's
right?
so casual, like you're just on a big, picture
Yeah.
at Fenway. It's
But
normal.
I'll never forget like when they called me and told me they were going to do that and like I sent them pictures and information and then Melanie couldn't make it because she was in the midst of working her Orioles season. But I was able to make it and I brought my parents up for this panel that they had and that was very surreal because it was like oh, like I get to walk my dad around Fenway Park and take this personal tour. He gets to take a picture in front of the big green monster with my mom and like, oh, by the way, there's my face. And so that was like probably the most surreal moment. And also like seeing it in person is so you're like, I remember I went to a couple of games whenever I was up there with my parents, and like we stopped by just to see it just a couple of times. And I'd be like standing there looking at my picture, and like people would pass and be like, wait, like that's you. And I'm like, yeah, like that's me. And like so many people still like it was only supposed to be up for 2 to 3 years, so it might be getting taken down and like replaced over the next season or two. But it's really fun. Like so many people that I know will go to Boston's and go to Fenway Park because it's so historic and they'll see it and they'll send me a picture. And I'm like, I'm still there. Like, girl still got it. So,
No,
yeah.
I remember seeing it, I think the first year they had it, and my dad and I had gone to Fenway, and it was like a super crowded game, and I was like, I'm gonna kneel down in front of this, and you have to take my picture. And my dad's like, we are in the middle of a sea of people, and I was like, just really quick. I was like, we have to do this.
Yeah.
And so I remember taking it, and people like being grumpy with me because I was like causing like a backup, but. No, I thought that was so awesome. And then I know, so since you have transitioned out of baseball, But I wanted to ask you, I know you mentioned Emma Tiedemann, but last year or the past couple of years, she's had Riley Pay with her. So they've
Yeah.
also kind of made their own a little bit of history. Riley's gone on to now be the head broadcaster at the AAA level in Tacoma, and Emma just hired another girl to broadcast with her
Yeah,
this year.
hey.
Yeah, so we're so excited. I'm so excited to see how they do. But how does it feel now to like know like you were the first, you were part of that, and now see all these women kind of falling in behind you and also kind of making history or like taking up more space?
Well, I'm glad it's just normal now.
Hmm.
And also when you listen to them, like I've listened to Riley and Emma a few times, and it's like it's just so professional and it's like, yes, we can really do this. And I don't even want to sit there and say like I started. I did not start it. Like Melanie, Emma, Kirsten, like they were all way before me. I just had like a simple little idea at my desk to put two of us in there together. Like that's it, you know. I can't take the credit before that. Um, but I'm so glad to see too that it's becoming normal and like Emma is able to just go out like season after season and find these other great people to work with her and work under her. And what a great person to be able to work with and work under, right? I mean, look at how great Riley's now doing. Look at what Emma did for Nesson last year at a Red Sox game. Like, that's an incredible person to be under and to get to work with. So I truly think the world of Emma, and I think that the sky is the limit for her. And I think everything she's doing in Portland is great, but I think that her ceiling is way higher. So.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So now you're back in your home city. You're the in-arena host for the Penguins. I saw you're also the Steelers High School Showcase sideline reporter. Can you kind of take me through like a day in your life as it is right now?
Oh goodness, as it is right now. Let me take you back to, oh gosh. I don't know. Every day is different because I also own my own content creation business. So I make content for small local businesses around here. I have four businesses that I do it for. So there's a lot of phone time, which I, don't entirely like just for my own brand, but also theirs. But it is what it is. It pays the bills, right? So there's a lot of planning content, but also with my sideline reporting job for the Steelers, it's Friday nights during the fall. It is so much fun because I get to do it with one of my best friends. I'm also branded by the Steelers. Stanley McBeam's always there. There's always a Steelers player there, and we get to highlight some of the best local high school players in the area. And we put on a pregame show and a halftime show, and the kids love it, and the Steelers have fully bought into it. Um, and I think people think we just like roll up there because it's high school football. It's like, no, like I do interviews all week. I have so many pages of prep. OneNote is stacked with a rundown. And that goes on between like all my content creation, right? In terms of my Penguins prep, those days are a little bit different. I will say, out of all the things that I do on camera, in arena hosting and on field hosting is what I'm most comfortable with, which everybody always thinks is so backwards. They're like, wait, you're like in front of thousands of people without a script. Like, you know that, right? And I'm like, yeah. And like, I know it's like the craziest thing, but like on camera, like I actually on a TV broadcast, I get more nervous because I'm like, I can't see the reaction from people. Whereas like in arena or on field, I can see it. So I'm like, maybe that comforts me. Like if I hear them cheering, I don't know. Um, but the Penguins job has honestly been a dream. Like when I got it, I cried because I was like, holy crap, it's been 12 years of grinding to be able to like make it to the NHL and or at the top level of any league. And it's the first job, and I know like if my boss has watched this back or anybody does that's worked with me, it's the first job that I've ever been able to walk into and I'm handed a script and I'm handed a microphone, and my job is to literally talk and perform.
Hmm.
And like I've never had that before in my life because in Salem I was writing my own scripts and then I was going out there and I was doing this and this and this and in Lehigh I was doing the same and in Rochester I was, all over the place with everything I was doing. Like this is the first time that I've ever just been able to walk in and do the dream. And that has been it's taken me time to adjust because of my work ethic, but it's been such just I'm so grateful for it every single day because I realize everything that I went through led me to be able to do this and just take it all in.
Oh, that's awesome. I know you've done so many amazing things. And for my kind of final question, what advice would you give women who want to be in your shoes one day?
Oh man, there's so many pieces of advice. Like I always say, and I mean these two things for everybody, like not just females. I think it goes for males as well. Like first of all, when somebody says no, it literally means next opportunity. And I know that that's so cliche and so many people say that now, but like I think if there was a world record for a human being that has been told no, like I probably hold it. Like I should be in the Guinness Book of World Records at this point because the amount of no's to my amount of yeses is like insane. Um, but I never saw it as a negative. Like when I was in Salem, if Ryan said no or Alan said no, like they can confirm this. Okay, you said no. I'd go back to them like a week later and be like, so how about this way? And like I would ask until somebody said yes. And eventually, like when you get your yes, it's going to be that much sweeter after all the no's because you're going to know that that's what's for you and that's what you're supposed to do next. Even if it's not the best next step, you're there for a reason, right? Like you are there for a reason. You're going to figure out you're going to make it work. Um, my next piece of advice, and I feel like I've really, over the last 2 years, I've really taken this one to heart. And I kind of said this before we started, like this whole recording and everything. Um, I'm a very passionate person and I'm very kind and I'm very loving. And I don't like anything that's unkind. I don't like anything that goes against my morals. And our industry is crazy. And sometimes people will try to be like, well, if you do this, you'll get here. If you do X, you'll go there. And like, if you do this, then like you're a good employee. And I have just been telling people lately, like, don't do anything that's not you. Like, don't let what we do change who you are because A, people are going to like you better if you're just you, but B, if you go against your kindness and your morals, like then what are you doing? Like, so be kind, like stick to your morals, do what's right. And sometimes it feels impossible and it feels like the walls are closing in on you and everybody's going to be against you. But I can guarantee you, if you pick that kind route or you pick the route that you know is right in your heart, but it's hard for your mind because you don't know what everybody else is thinking, it's going to be better in the long run. It's way more worth it. So that's my best piece of advice for people. It's just like stick to you and do what's kind and do what's right. So,
No, that was great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to hop on. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll chat again soon. XOXO, Chelsea.